in the second aspect of the definition is the command is coming out of a sovereign. Law is the command of the sovereign to the subject. So we have seen what a command is. The second undeciphered word here is sovereign. It is the command of the sovereign. Now the question is, who is the sovereign? See, a sovereign, according to Austin, he again defines what a sovereign is. According to Austin, a sovereign is a determinate superior. Is a determinate superior. A determinate superior means something which can be distinguished, differentiated. So he is a determinate superior. A sovereign is a determinate superior. This determinate superior is not in habitual obedience to a like superior. That is, this determinate superior is not in obedience to a like superior. That is, no others. He is subordinated. He is not subordinated to any other superior. So sovereign is a determinate superior, not in habitual obedience to a like superior, obtaining from the bulk of the population in a country. So obtaining from the bulk of a population habitual obedience. So according to Austin, a sovereign, I repeat, is a determinate superior, not in habitual obedience to a like superior, which signifies that there cannot be another superior over the sovereign. Not in habitual obedience to a like superior. And he is obtaining from the bulk of the population. Bulk of the population with huge majority of a population. So the sovereign in a country is obtaining from the huge majority of the population what? Habitual obedience. So this is how the sovereign is defined. So one aspect of the definition, again going back to the definition of Austin, that is, law is the command of the sovereign to the subject, obliging them for a course of conduct. The first part we have seen, what is the command? Second part comes to sovereign. And what is a sovereign? Sovereign is a determinate superior, not in habitual obedience to a like superior, obtaining from the bulk of the population what they obtain? Habitual obedience. Austin further goes on to say that a sovereign is illimitable, absolute, and indivisible. What does it mean? He says that the power of the sovereign is absolute. It is indivisible. What does it mean? Indivisible. That is, in a country, if there is one sovereign, it cannot be divided. There cannot be more than one sovereign. If there are two sovereigns, we have seen usually the story of a lion looking inside a well, seeing a reflection, jumping into the well, because he can't tolerate another lion in his presence. Similarly, similarly, you can't have more than one sovereigns in an area, in a country. So sovereign is indivisible. It is absolute. There cannot be any restrictions on the power of the sovereign. The power is absolute. Illimitable. It cannot be limited. So this is how Austin defines a sovereign. I am not going to explain in detail the concept of sovereign because it takes a lot of time. Now here, two main concepts of Austin's definition has been elaborated. One is the concept of a command and the concept of a sovereign. So, after going through it, we again go back to the definition. We can see that law, according to Austin, is the command of the superior. Who is that superior? The sovereign. So it is the command of the sovereign to the subject, obliging them for a course of conduct. Obliging them for a course of conduct. See, again he classifies, he explains the sovereign as illimitable, absolute. Now, to clarify more, he says that a sovereign is a determinate superior, not in habitual obedience to a like superior, getting from the bulk of the population, habitual obedience. I have to make a small clarification which I have earlier left. According to Austin, the sovereign is getting habitual obedience, not obedience perennially, every day. They are getting habitual obedience. So if you take a country, you can see that we are obeying the government. That is the sovereign. Be it the dictator, be it the king or the monarch or whoever it is. We are obeying him. Not every day. Say, some of them won't be obeying him on the day of the month. And sometimes we may violate the containment rule or go out on a Sunday, a lockout day. But generally, we follow their commands as a habit. There is a habitual obedience. It doesn't mean that we are not going to disobey them or obey them on each and every day. We may disobey them once in a while. But the point is that we habitually obey them. That is one aspect. The second aspect is that in a country, each and every people need not obey a sovereign. There can be a small group, a terrorist group, a splinter group like the ULFA, the Kashmiri Liberation Force, who are not obeying the government. But it doesn't mean that India is not a sovereign country. It becomes a sovereign country if it gets habitual obedience from bulk of the population. Bulk of the population means it need not be the totality of the population, but the huge majority of the population. This is the point which I wanted to clarify again. Now leave all these things. Now, even though we feel that Austin's definition is somewhat good, there is another jurist called Salmon who is analyzing cynically his definition and says that Austin's definition is absolute nonsense. He's not using that particular word, but simply he says that it is not a very reliable definition. He is analyzing each and every point in Austin's definition and proving it to be wrong. According to Salmon, the definition of law as the command is not absolutely right. He says that not every law is a command. In every law, there need not be a punishment. For example, if you take the limitation and laws with regard to limitation, there is a law. But if it is time bar, it cannot be enforced. So the law is there, but it cannot be enforced. How can it be compatible with the concept of a sovereign's command? If it is an absolute sovereign's command, There cannot be something like an imperfect law. An imperfect law is a law which exists but cannot be enforced through a court of law, which is a contradiction in terms if you go for the concept of sovereign and the definition of Austin. Again, Salmond is criticizing Austin's definition on several grounds. He says that most of the laws, if we historically analyze law, we can see that most of the laws have not been evolved through the commands of the sovereign. On the other hand, they have evolved out of customs. And if you trace the old cultures and old civilizations and old life, or the evolution of law among the tribal population and things like that, we can see that the laws are usually not made by the kings, but they are made by the ministers, the medicine man. We have seen lots of Hindus deriving not out of the king, but by the Manu, the Yajnavalkya, and so many Narada, who were not the kings. So the concept that law has evolved out of concept is historically wrong. That is another criticism with regard to Austin's definition. Now, again, Salmond comes with still some other criticisms with regard to the concept and definition of sovereign also. He says that this Austinian concept of sovereign as a determinate superior, not in habitual obedience to like superior, obtaining from the bulk of the population, habitual obedience is not true. He says that in an autocratic or a monarchical state, the concept of indivisible sovereign is true. But if you take a federal country, you can see that the sovereignty is divided between the state and center. As far as Kerala is considered, Comrade Pinarayi Vijayan is supreme. Not in the sense that the Kerala Legislative Assembly or the Kerala Executive is supreme. And if you take the center, it is Narendra Modi or the Central Legislature or the Central Executive which is supreme. So in a federal republic, often sovereignty is divided. So there also Austin is going wrong. Then the Austin's concept of a sovereign as a determinate superior is also being challenged. According to Salmond, who exactly is a determinate superior in a democracy like India? See, is it the legislature or the president, or is it the executive or the judiciary or the legislature? We can see that there are mutual checks and balances, and none is supreme. A president, the chief executive, can be impeached by the legislature. It is the president, on the other hand, who appoints the chief minister, and he can dissolve legislative assembly or the parliament in case of non-availability of majority. The justice of the Supreme Court can invalidate the law on the ground that it is a violation of fundamental right. On the other hand, the legislature can impeach the judge. So no one is supreme in a country like India. So who is that determinate superior? That again is a question. So again, the concept that the sovereign is illimitable, indivisible and absolute. How can a sovereign be absolute in the new order world? Can India, without any justification, declare or intervene in Pakistan and dissolve the government? It's true that mighty countries do that, but it's considered to be a violation of the international law. And we can see that there is something called international law which is acting above the state. If the power of a sovereign is absolute, how can there be a law above the sovereign state? That is still another problem. Now, these are all main criticisms with regard to the Austin's definition. So I have just given you a broad outline of the concept of Austin's definition. There are further points, but this gives an introduction to the concept of what is a sovereign. Thank you. Thank you for the patient listening. God bless.
Me